3:56 p.m. Thursday, May 19th, 2022. What a day, folks. What a day. Oh my gosh. Oh, personal life update first. I purchased a cheap 13-inch diameter electric string trimmer. Got some great arm exercise and upper body, shoulders. Made sure not to twist and hurt my back or anything, so my back doesn't hurt like that, which is great. The tendency is to try and make too large of a swath. The reason I got the string trimmer is that I have the belts for the lawn tractor, for the drive belt and the deck. However, I have not studied into how to do that yet, and I'm not going to just tear into that. So when I have time to do that, probably my next set of days off or something, and in the intervening time, probably learning about it. But I'm not there yet, so I was like, okay, I do need to trim back the path I walk to my house. I need to trim back around where the porch is a ways to try and keep the bugs at bay a little bit, because the longer the grass gets, the worse the bugs are. Right now, my grass is about 18 inches tall to seed, and the dandelions are actually standing up almost 2 feet as well to get above it. It's pretty cool. World news. Oh my gosh. This place is just a lush green interspersed with deserts and steppe land and fjords and blue oceans and amazing rivers and mountains and just sweeping plains with the biggest sky you can think of, and somehow also a comprehensive dumpster fire. On the good news side of things, relatively speaking, former President George W. Bush, whose election was illegitimate both times, a war criminal, knew about the attacks on the Twin Towers in advance, was somehow in on it. Him and his vice president, the foreign war invasion bombed out reconstruction construction company CEO turned vice president just in time. And the words just in time are going to come back here in a little bit. He gave a speech. He's 75 years old. He said so in the speech. He said something about Vladimir Putin. Said something about how the elections are rigged in Russia. Said something about how political opponents are not allowed to run. Oftentimes are jailed. And one man has the power to launch, as he says, an, quote, unjust and brutal invasion in Iraq. I mean, Ukraine. And then he says, he literally said that. He accidentally said Iraq. George W. Bush, the guy who in 2003 ordered the invasion of Iraq, claiming that there was some connection tenuous to Al-Qaeda and bin Laden. So like first we invaded Afghanistan while bin Laden was in Pakistan. Then we invaded Iraq, supposedly because there was some kind of a connection to Al-Qaeda, even though Al-Qaeda and the Ba'ath Party were mortal enemies ideologically. They would kill each other on sight kind of thing. And then they said, well, but they have weapons of mass destruction, which they didn't. So after saying unjust and brutal invasion of Iraq, I mean Ukraine, he goes, well, Iraq too. And then said, I'm 75, man. "19 years since my real awakening." Now, I had questions as a kid about some things, and they would, come up and then go down. But when I stood in the break room of a telemarketing center that I was working at, watching like front bumper cam from a tank rolling across the desert, invading Iraq, and I was like, why would they show this on television? Why are we even there? And it was just from there on. Now, I've been up, I've been down, I've been brainwashed, I've awakened myself, and it has been 19 years that I've been waiting for any kind of admission, let alone consequences. So that's kind of a big deal. What else do we got? They are throwing waves of terror through propaganda at an increasing rate. What this means is that in order to maintain the level of control that they have had for so long, they have to keep going more and more and more. And you know what that means, right? When you become desperate to maintain, that you are just throwing everything. That means that the end is near. So, after the yellow and blue current thing, we had Scrotus with a leak, but nothing has come of that since other than people got upset. But that was a good distraction from the fact that people were figuring out that they're legit Nazis over there. And then we got a bunch of mass shootings. They're trying to use that as excuses for gun control. Ain't gonna work, ain't gonna happen. And just in time. See, I told you it was coming back for the midterms. All these hot button issues. So we can say our side versus their side. And they want this, and we want this, and they hate this. And I mean, look at everything they're doing. They're stacking up so they can say, see, look at the shootings. It's gun control needed. We're running on that. No, they're not going to make it. If you got half a brain, you know they're not going to make it. If you got half a brain, why would you vote for people that you know are lying? The gas prices, they keep blaming on other things. And I love that Josh Hawley said the thing to the energy secretary or something that was like, that's nonsense. Please stop. This is my time. And he points out all the points at which these these problems that we're having that are making our lives more difficult were done long before any of the things that they're currently blaming it on. It's none of my business. Oh yeah, it is, because I work. I drive my own vehicle to work. I have to maintain my own vehicle. The costs are going up. I have to put fuel in my vehicle. The costs are going up. And the other problem is I work for tips, and what happens when people are so busy trying to stock up for their families or locate baby formula, that puts me at a disadvantage too, doesn't it? So I guess it does affect me. I guess it is my business. So, in and amongst all of that, we find out that there is a new order for a wartime only order. For the, what is that, the emergency manufacturing provision or whatever the heck it's called. That after redirecting the majority of our own domestic supplies of formula to border facilities where people that were told in their own countries come here, but they did it illegally. They did it the wrong way. You don't just run across the border into another country and stake your claim to be able to live there. You've got to be able to, integrate with the society. You've got to be able to function within the infrastructure, if there is such. So, just showing up is not the way to do it. Not to mention how many countries in the intervening ways that have a better standard of living from what you were trying to escape as well, and they speak your fucking language. But no, we want to come. No, so it's political. It's political. Half of those people were paid to come. Maybe more than half. Who knows? But they have them all set up in these facilities, which simultaneously are better living than what they had before, and at the same time they are awful prisoners of the U.S. government. At the same time, it's the same people in the U.S. government that everybody voted for to get rid of the other guy because he was such a monster with the immigration. And there's no sense to be made of it because it doesn't make sense. They are being hypocrites. They are going against their own principles, not knowing what their principles are or not having principles. Orders more formula to be produced, enslaving businesses to produce that which they stole from the market to give to people that got no business to be here. That's a weird predicament. Just in time for the midterms. They're trying to get people that have kids. But the funny thing is, at the same time, the other part of the debate is with this Roe versus Wade thing and states' rights and legit talk about, like, partial birth, 9-month, post-birth abortion. The government's medical authorities define it in the legal sense as the termination of a pregnancy that results in the death of the fetus and no live birth. Meaning that technically, you can terminate the pregnancy by giving birth. Well, okay, no, so you've had a live birth. You'd have to change that definition then. Watch. So, I mean, really, if you think about it, in a very morbid way, dark, it would be like saying that by not having baby formula and all children are starving, that we're working into that pro-choice, for whatever reason, killing of babies thing, and it's funny because you could argue that some kind of weird demonic force has overtaken a lot of people and caused them to do a lot of destructive things, and that this weird dark sacrificing of children and innocence thing could be a thing that they're just in denial of while doing it. There's lots of people that are mentally ill that do things while being in denial of the mental illness or the fact that they're doing it. It happens all the time. What else we got? Oh yeah, Ukrainian troops being evacuated is code speak through propaganda for surrendering. Russia has won. And the guys that we're backing, that we literally just sent an enormous chunk of money, like $40 billion with a B dollars. That is 40 million. Think about that. $40 billion. Let's say hypothetically that 80 million people actually did vote for Biden. You could send each one of them $500,000. That's how much money that is. Only for them to immediately surrender. Where the fuck is that money going to? It sure as hell ain't going to fighting off the Russians. It sure as hell isn't going toward taking care of the refugee crisis in Ukraine because of the people being displaced or whatever, the damage, the death, etc. Because they're still also asking for donations through charities for this. It's their money laundering country. They were like, well, this is the last chance to throw a chunk. $40 billion fucking dollars. Gone. Famous computer system salesman with zero medical experience, a month or two ago, says, hey, so we still have too many people. Famously made the statement that through the use of many techniques, including vaccines, the population could be significantly reduced. Warns of impending particular type of virus that is not the same as the last particular type of virus. It is in fact of a type of virus which has been literally eradicated. But several years ago, several government groups decided to go ahead and requisition vaccines for that particular illness anyway. And wow, as all this other craziness comes about, as you got the abortion riot about to happen, as you've got the baby formula food riot about to happen, as you've got the runs out of gas because it was already almost $10 a gallon in places, and the average is getting higher and higher, and now they're just running out. Meanwhile, you got the secretary in the Senate being told, hey, so, what do you blame this for again? Oh, well, it's obviously Putin's fault. And the guy goes, yeah, you sure it wasn't the part where they shut down the pipeline that was providing energy independence? They closed off the mining options to everywhere that we have resources of our own. and then began to depend on foreign sources, including from Russia, while we're at war with them. If we pay them money for products and goods and services, even though there's sanctions, doesn't that make us sanctionable? Like, see what I'm saying about hypocrites and no actual principles? So now they're saying there's going to be this thing called monkeypox. Just in time for them to insist that everybody try and lock their shit up and say, it's safer if you vote by mail, guys. Trust us. I know it doesn't all just come down to who's in charge of the country or whatever, but a lot of it does, because that's who basically dictates the narrative. And as Elon Musk famously said just a few days ago, whoever controls the teleprompter is really the president. And it's happening in all the other countries too. Sri Lanka is out of gas and out of food. A number of Latin American countries are in the same position. Isolated places are going to have it first, and then places that are connected to larger mainland countries are also going to have issues. Places with enormous populations are going to learn very quickly how scarce resources can become. The prediction is that people will move to the cities, to them, so that it will be easier to survive. This is only, I suppose, for maybe people that can't figure out how to survive. Those cities will be war zones. They will be terrible. It will be worse than anything in any dystopian fiction. Smart people already got out of the cities. I do not believe in the Great Reset. I do not believe that there is any such plan to modernize the world after this collapse. I do not believe that the people who are trying to engage such a thing, if they were genuine about that being the goal, have the actual means and capability and intellect to successfully reset anything but their own personal bunker. And as obviously stupid, corrupt, and insane, which, I mean, we'll put that all into the evil category too, right? As all these people are running the show at whatever level, as soon as we see them acting this way, we should deny their authority openly. Because otherwise, we and everyone around us will be peer pressured into obedience by people who do not have our best interest in mind or at heart, and in fact don't seem to even know what the fuck they're doing anyway. Other than, this is destructive, let's do it. And for the people that actually cast a ballot for Joe, you have a couple options before you. You can take the easy way out. You can go there and unelect him yourselves. Or, I suppose option 3 is a combination of when the food riots hit and the people that have, got the means and the list and whatever, it's going to be one way or the other. You brought this on us, you're going to pay. So, man, what an amazing world we live in. I forgot the other thing. There was another thing I saw. The Dalai Lama is advocating Marxism. The Tibetan Buddhist I don't want to say Godhead because that's not right, but he is the figurehead of Tibetan Buddhism. He is supposed to be their living Buddha representative. He is chosen as a child, as they are supposedly. Yeah, the Dalai Lama passes, the Lama's companion, because he has a sidekick or something, uh, helps them find the next one, and then they expire, and this new Lama helps find the companion, or however. But they've got an organization, and it's a very organized religion kind of way, very very controlled, controlled system. Um, he is in exile away from Tibet because he cannot live in Tibet because it is occupied by communist China. Maoism was informed by Marxism. And no, the statement, it just hasn't been done right yet, is not true. It's being done right in China. They are amazingly successful. It's somehow not completely self-destructing for as long as they have. Mao's 100-year plan and all that. Maybe the Dalai Lama should abdicate his title and convert to a different religion. The Buddhist doctrine is the Four Noble Truths: that suffering is real, that suffering has a direct root cause, that there can be a cessation of suffering, and that the cessation of the root cause is the cessation of suffering. Now, the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, claimed that attachment or desire, and what he means by that is worldliness, materialism, as well as the more common modern versions of what desire and attachment refer to, including in the psychological sense. But those things have a root cause, typically in ignorance. So it could be better said that ignorance is the root cause of suffering, and the cessation of ignorance, broadly, among all people, enables the cessation of suffering more broadly, because it is not just about abandoning the material and the worldly. It is not about, how would they put it, removing self from your own equation. You really can't exist without a sense of self. Your body will self-destruct. You can't have senses. You can't have awareness in a body without some sense of self. An attachment to the concept of complete eradication of self is a cause of suffering. So I commented on a video that mentioned this. I just said, hey, that guy, frankly, I'm more of a living Buddha than he is. And somebody took that to mean that I believe that I am the Buddha, which is not the case. Interesting set of comments followed where this person has thus far continued to try and argue their opinion that I am not this thing that I did not claim to be, while maintaining that the other dude is also definitely not that, but not really saying anything about that, just going at me. So my replies, rather than argue or whatever else, have been, well, these are my reasons. The Dalai Lama has obviously forgotten the Four Noble Truths. He has obviously forgotten the Noble Eightfold Path, which I, to be quite honest, because I'm not claiming to be a Buddha, cannot recite all 8 of them. I can usually get to about 6. Right mind, right speech, right life, right livelihood, I think right heart, right vision. Like, it's kind of contrived, honestly. But one of the things that the Buddha did say that I really resonated with was that once the initiate has attained enlightenment, their next task is to face reality. So, Dalai Lama, great figurehead, living Buddha of the Tibetan sect, how do you justify the starvation and torture and imprisonment murder of 100 million people in the pursuit of the cessation of suffering? Wow. Wow, nobody's paying attention because they didn't catch that part. Well, I mean, that's why China Uncensored's reporting it, right? You would think any idiot could see that. But because he is not a living Buddha, and like I said, compare my lifestyle to his lifestyle, and with all of my flaws, with all of the things that I do that are not in line with that Noble Eightfold Path, I am nonetheless closer to attaining than he is. And this within one lifetime. So yeah, the world, big old, amazing, beautiful. You saw that eclipse. You seen the rainbows, those gorgeous storm clouds. Them weird bugs doing cool stuff. So many amazing things. Kitty cats, puppy dogs, pumas and cheetahs. All kinds of awesomeness. Yeah, baby. All kinds of awesomeness in the world. And yet at the same time, there's this dumpster fire thing going on that just, we, most of us are aware that it was a bad thing from go. Nobody would listen. This automated system of control of the world, the authoritative aspect, I believe I would refer to it as. And I don't think the authoritative aspect is a real thing. I think it's a construct. We should see what happens if we just ignore the existence of it. I mean, maybe that's the ego of the world collective. I don't know. So maybe ignoring that is a good idea after all.